Hello and welcome back to Gapeys Grub and Garden. Today we're in the front yard and we're working on picking our red currants. So our bushes are really loaded this year. They've got a ton of fruits. We've already picked one of them and got 5.5 pounds of berries. So we still have this one to do, and I'll probably freeze these, but the first batch that we harvested I'm gonna be turning into a nice hot spicy jam. So let's go in the kitchen and I'll show you how to make it. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is get our fruit prepared. So I've already washed all of these currants, and this is, again, is about 5 pounds of currants. You can adjust this recipe if you don't have that many. This should make a pretty decent sized batch. So I'm just gonna pour these into a stainless steel pan, and this is actually gonna fill this up quite a bit. So that is pretty full. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get another pan because I don't want this to be too full. We're gonna be getting the seeds out of these and that will reduce it quite a bit. But to start off with, we're gonna use two pans here. I'm gonna add about 1/2 cup of water to each pan, just so that will help it from burning. I'm just going to use a silicone spatula to give it a stir every now and then. So we're just going to let these cook for about 20 minutes, and we'll just give it a stir about every few minutes or so, and that will really help soften these so we can get the seeds out much easier. While the berries are cooking down, we're going to go ahead and get our pectin ready. So this is Pomona's Universal Pectin, and to use this we need to put together a calcium solution. So this comes with a little packet of calcium powder, and we need 1/2 teaspoon of the calcium powder in 1/2 cup of water. So we've already got the water in there. Just going to add 1/2 teaspoon of calcium and give that a shake. And this will store for quite a while, so you can put this in the refrigerator until you want to use it. And just be sure to shake it before you use it. And one more thing that we want to add to this is the spicy element. So I'm going to be adding these chopped up peppers from last season. These were in the freezer. So these are very, very hot peppers. So I'm going to be adding, this is only about a tablespoon. So I'm just going to add about 1/2 tablespoon to each pan, and I hope that's not going to be too hot. Now we don't want these to come to a rolling boil, we just want to simmer these, so I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. Yep, I can smell those peppers already. So these peppers are the red Fatality that I grew last year, which isn't really that hot, but there's also a bubble gum crossed with a Tabasco in here, and that one is really, really hot. So hopefully that's not gonna be too spicy. You can already see some of these currants are starting to break down and let out their juices. Another thing we need to do is get our water bath canner ready. So the one that I have has these lines or ridges along the side here, and we want to use the bottom ridge, so that's where I filled the water to. And it's going to take a little while for this to come up to a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and get that going. It's been about 20 minutes and we've got lots of juices, and the berries look like they're pretty soft. I've let this cool for about 5 minutes, and now we're going to go ahead and put this through a food mill. My food mill came with 3 different strainer sizes. So I'm using the middle-sized one. This one is the teeny tiny one. This one is far too large. And then this one here hopefully is just right. I'm going to pour a little bit of this in at a time and try not to make a mess. Now we're just gonna scrape the bottom here Before we start on the next batch, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this out. This is gonna go in the compost bins. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and measure what we have so far just to see how much we have. So that is exactly 4 quarts, or 1 quart, which is 4 cups. So that's a good amount. So I'm gonna pour this back into the pan. And in case you didn't know, currant seeds are really pretty big, bigger than raspberry seeds. You don't have to strain them out, but I think it's much better. You may notice I'm rotating it backwards every now and then. That just lifts the seeds up off of the bottom. Otherwise, if you keep going this direction, it's not gonna go through. So that just helps create some space on the bottom. All right, so we're looking pretty good there. We've got all of the juices out. So I'm just gonna scrape the bottom again. And we're gonna measure this one. All right, we got just under a quart, and the other one was actually just slightly over. So we're gonna call that 8 cups or 2 quarts. So we're gonna use a 1-to-4 ratio of honey to puree. So we've got 8 cups of puree, so that means we're gonna need 2 cups of honey. So now we're gonna be adding our calcium water to the puree. So I'm gonna shake this up. We're gonna need 4 teaspoons for this 8 cups. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we can put this back in the fridge and save it for later. Just gonna stir that up. And we're gonna add this back to the stove. Now we need to measure out our honey. So I've got some wildflower honey here from last season, and we're gonna need 2 cups of this. All right, now we're gonna add our pectin, and we're gonna need 4 teaspoons of this also. So we're gonna be adding this directly to the honey. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. We need to stir that in really good. Now, if you were using sugar instead of honey, you would add this pectin to the sugar. So we're gonna get our lids ready here. I've got a pan of water with about 1 inch or 2 of water, and our canning lids are just gonna go right inside. We've got our canning tools here. I've got a funnel, and this is to lift our jars out of the hot water and also in. And then we've also got this thing here, which is a magnet that we can use to get these lids out of the hot water. So most canning kits come with these 3 items. So we're gonna leave this one over here, and these 2 we'll put over here. So we just turned this down to a simmer. It was starting to boil, so we don't need it to boil. So we're just got that down on low until we're ready to use those. Before we go any further, we need to sterilize our jars. So I'm using these 8-ounce jars, which is equivalent to 1 cup. So we've got 8, 9, 10 cups of honey and puree. So I'm gonna be using 10 of these jars. So we'll need to sterilize these in boiling water for 10 minutes. So our water is up to a boil. I'm gonna be using our handy dandy jar holders here, and we're just going to put those in the water. So I'm filling these up with water as I put them in. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put the lid back on. And we'll need to wait until that comes to a boil and wait 10 minutes. All right, we've got our puree here at a full boil. Now it's time to Add our honey. Gotta scrape out all that honey goodness. We're gonna stir that in for about 2 minutes, and then we'll be ready to fill our jars. Okay, looks like we're boiling here, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat, and we can start filling up our jars. Now, I like to keep a dish towel here on the left with my other utensils. So I'm just gonna grab a jar out of here, pour out all of the water, set it on our towel, give this another stir. Then we grab our ladle and add our funnel here to make sure we don't make too big of a mess. Now it is gonna look pretty thin, but once it sets, it'll thicken up. And we wanna fill these jars to about 1/4 inch from the top. And before I put the lid on, I like to grab one more jar just to get it ready. And we use our little magnet here to grab one of our lids. And I do keep a wet dishcloth nearby just so I can wipe the rim. We'll add our ring, and we'll add the jar back to our pan. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up the rest of these. We wanna make sure our jars are covered by 1 inch or 2 of water, and they're looking pretty good there. Just add more water if they're not. Then we're gonna put our lid back on and let that reach a boil, and we'll just can these for 10 minutes and they'll be ready. We somehow ended up with some extra here, so I'm just gonna put that into another jar, and we'll just keep this in the fridge and use that once it's cool. Time is up. Let's get these guys out of here. Let's turn off the heat first. Nice color there. And we just wait for that lovely popping noise. Any that don't pop, we're just gonna store in the refrigerator, but hopefully we've got half of them popped already. Looks like more than half. We're just waiting for that one there. And there's the last one. So it looks like they're all sealed good. So we're just gonna let these sit here and cool, and I usually like to wait at least 24 hours before I put them in storage. Here's the jam that we put in the refrigerator about 4 hours ago, so it's nice and cool. And it looks like it has set up really nice. So it is pretty thick. It's almost looks like a jelly. So we're gonna go ahead and try this on some crackers. I'll bring it in here close for you. So you could see how nice. So it's a nice consistency there. And I've got some, they're like some flax seed crackers. So I'm just gonna put that on here. You can definitely taste the heat, but it's not too spicy. Not too sweet, nice honey flavor. So I'll probably do a blog post with the recipe. If you're growing any kind of currants, you can use white currants as well. Black currants, red currants, any kind of currant. I highly recommend this jam, and you can use any kind of peppers that you have, or not use peppers at all if you don't want. If you have any other ideas of things I can make with my currant harvest this year, leave a comment and let me know what your favorite recipe is. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.